All right. Welcome, everybody, to the Red Wheelbarrow Poetry Collective. I'm so thrilled to be hosting Miriam Kramer, who is an incredible poet and a really inspiring human being, who I've known probably for 4+ years. We met through Poems That Don't Suck, Megan Falley's online course during the pandemic, and I've been a fan ever since. And this year was a very exciting year for Miriam because her debut collection, Built by Storms, came out with Right Bloody Publishing in the US. So that's really fantastic, and it's a beautiful, beautiful collection of powerful poetry. For those who don't know, Miriam Kramer is a queer Jewish poet residing in New Jersey with her partner, daughter, and 2 cats. She majored in creative writing at Pacific University and currently works at an educational nonprofit. She was the winner of the 2023 Jack McCarthy Book Prize. She loves stick figure drawings, bright sneakers, and embroidery. Her poetry has appeared in many, many journals, and her debut collection has been nominated for a couple of prizes already, which is awesome. She's performed poetry all over the show, and she'd love to read for you. You can find her at Myriad Words. I'm so excited to hear from you. Please take the stage.
Thank you so much for that incredibly kind introduction, Melissa. Getting to know you and meet you through Poems That Don't Suck was just, a highlight for a very, very dark, period of the world. So I'm so grateful to know you, and I'm so grateful to be here with you all. So thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me read some poems. So I'm going to start with a new one, and then I will read some poems from the book, and we'll go from there. A car is a lethal weapon, Mom says from the passenger seat. My new learner's permit burns in my wallet. Too focused on the road to roll my eyes, I keep my hands at 10 and 2. I'm 60 hours of supervised driving away from full freedom. I've practiced in parking lots, borrowed minutes behind the wheel. I poke at my turquoise braces with my tongue. Her statement is too large, like trying to carry the week's groceries inside alone. I'm not ready to hold its entirety, this weight of new responsibility. I've only ever thought of guns in this way, lethal, and from a distance. Mom didn't let us have toy guns, tried to keep violence at arm's length to protect us. Columbine was over a year ago. The news coverage focused on black trench coats, the repetition of the word unpopular. I feel a wretched sympathy for their unattained acceptance, like the time I asked my classmate, the one with modeling experience, if she thought I was pretty, my cheeks flaring when she didn't look up to reply. The carnage happened across the country in a state I've never seen. I've been to 13 states already, most on Mom's business trips. I've told people this with an attempt at a sophisticated smile. I'm not aware this country is an epidemic of massacre. I've been shielded. The middle-aged man glaring alone outside the mall goes unnoticed. My friends and I shop pop gum without worry when he gets off the bench, follows us inside. 24 years later, I'm pregnant. I build a crib with my partner, but do not baby-proof the rooms, like she exists only in dreams and will never be here in real life. I wait for bad news at every prenatal appointment and it never arrives, like I'm trying to warn her away from existing. She's born perfect in the warmest November to date. Can winter survive for her Will she make snow angels? Have a favorite pair of boots? I envision her body nestled in a zippered bag, my hollowed living body identifying hers. Yes, that is her birthmark splashed like muddy water across her thigh. Those are her curling eyelashes, each one an empty wish. How foolish I was to call her mine and think I could keep her. How foolish I've always been. Thank you. Um, all right, so I will read some from here. This was really an exciting a dream, it was a dream to have a book. So it was so exciting to have happen this year. So I will read some from it. This is called To the God of Gas Station Bathrooms. To the God of the cheapest pregnancy tests, God of desperation and the morning after, the God of McDonald's dollar menu, the God of expired baked goods, God of unclean tiles and lifting blackened grout, God of bleached and hosed walls, to the God of overdoses, the God of Narcan, to the God who watches over the destitute and derailed, the travelers and the forever inert, to the God who revives only a few, God of cruel judgment, God of faulty rebirth. I have prayed to you the most, God of the gas station bathrooms I got high in and the ones I didn't. I have prayed to you, let someone knock before I break this bundle open. I have prayed to you, let me pretend this is a secret. I have prayed to you for just one more. I have prayed to you for never again. I have prayed to you, let the drugs work tonight. I have prayed to you, let me wake up to a new life. I have prayed to you, let this bag be the one that kills me. I think you want me to tell you I'm grateful to have survived, but that wouldn't be the whole truth. The truth is, I don't know why I'm still here. There are days my body is heavy with shovelfuls of guilt. It's called survivor's guilt for a reason. Why not Phil, who taught me to be a sneakerhead? Why not Diane? Why not Sean? Why not Debbie, who told me my hair looked like cotton candy? Why not Mike? Why not Matthew or Sam or Joe or Angela? You know there are more names. There will always be more names. There are more names than I can remember. There are names on the periphery of my memory, names blurred together to form a litany. There are names graffitied on your walls, the prayers you never answered, their parents weeping over their waxy bodies. Am I supposed to be grateful for the funerals? Am I supposed to feel saved? Am I supposed to feel chosen? Are you happy with your choices? God of fractured light leaking under the peeling door. Sometimes I just want to get high. Sometimes I want to throw my life away because I can't even decide on a pair of shoes and I can't ask Phil. So, God of the gutter, who should I pray to now? Thank you. So, it's a collection that deals with, addiction and recovery, trauma and grief, and also, I hope some hope in there as well. So I imagine you'll hear some of that in many of these. This next one is called Spring of Cicadas. In the spring of cicadas, I am reckless enough to know I am invincible. The spring prior was still high school, still invisible crushes, still long sleeves during summer. Now I have left and returned to Maryland, have slept outside, have spent nights unclothed with strangers. I fall in love with someone new every day. Brett's shoulder blades, Kathy's straight teeth, Alex's foolhardy hands. I know my heart is a muscle that gets stronger with each time it's torn open from the pressure of wanting, from my misguided impulses and across the basement, unmet glances. The cicadas rip apart the ground as they emerge. I feel the beating of their wings in the hollow parts of my chest, a daring vibration between my lungs, echoing the force of my pulse. I kiss girls for the first time. They are nameless and forever longed for. I dance on strangers' porches wrapped in cigarette smoke. It is the spring I start closing my eyes while driving, confident in my muscle memory on the dark back roads of Gaithersburg. Tell myself I can drive uncontrolled by vision, unaware I will never again trust myself the way I do now. This, this is freedom, I whisper to my empty passenger seat, open my eyes and swerve back into my lane. The cicadas are gone by summer. They leave nothing but their exoskeletons, translucent shells of themselves on the hood of my car, the trees in friends' yards, ghosts of May on dormant fire hydrants, unavoidable reminders of their demise. When the air is heavy with humidity, I drive to New York City, visit my friend who works as an escort on OkCupid. We muse on the tenderness of anonymous sex. I swoon over her one-bedroom apartment and spare cash. I shove borrowed courage into my pockets as I pack my car to go home. This is before I am afraid of highways because it is still 4 days until I collide with a Jersey barrier, roll my car on 95 South, when my body survives and the rest of me doesn't. My daring and certainty left in my overturned Nissan, now a vacant husk. I still find shards of glass in the shower, tucked into my hair. Their sparkle vanishes down the drain. Thank you. So this one is called Hard Headed. The last time I punched a wall, the doctor couldn't believe the x-rays that my hand wasn't broken. My dad says she's hard-headed and it goes all the way through. We chuckle, a trio of old friends, choosing to believe it is a compliment, polite small talk that isn't taking place in an urgent care. My pain pill refill radiates out of reach in the doctor's hand. 12 months of relapse after my suicide attempt, and here I am, still trying to self destruct. Home on the navy leather couch, my dad says, you know I'll always love you, but you don't need to keep testing it. My silence fills the living room, cracks the window panes, the walls swell. We ignore it, pretend I haven't already offered him a lifetime of empty apologies. Like this wasn't the third trip to the doctor in as many days. Like he hasn't also hit a wall. Like my silence isn't killing him. Like I didn't survive the overdose only to ask why. Thank you. All right. This one is called An Incomplete List of Things I Wish I Knew Growing Up in the 90s. 1. My Little Pony will be cool again. She-Ra gets her own show. Everything is cyclical. 2. Your sticker collection might be the source of your anxiety, the way you never placed the rarest holograms in any book on any surface. You start buying two of each, start biting your nails when you think of peeling them off their wax paper homes. 3. They all end up in the garbage after fifth grade. Enjoy them for their impermanence. 4. Awkward is only cute if you are already cute. You are not already cute. Your ear length hair exposing your antidepressant soft jawline. 5. Don't be yourself, not your full self, whose laughter is candid camera loud if you hope for invitations to sleepovers. 6. CompuServe chat rooms will be an early tutor for simulated relatedness. At 12, you will masquerade 16, love through a screen, forget to give a fake name. 7. At 16, you will not wonder if you are old enough when the man twice your age tells you he likes you, but only for your mouth. 8. Throw away the shorts he rips while you are still wearing them. Don't try to sew the inseam closed. 9. Your sticker collection might not be the source of your anxiety. 10. Don't pronounce pornography. 11. More people commit suicide due to shame than depression. 12. You never learn to use a sewing machine. You will mend the tears with dorm room rum, sketches of broken skin, signing up for track to validate your urge to run away. 13. You can save a lot of money if you don't buy food. 14. No one will notice how empty you become. 15. People won't always give you a reason. Your best friends from second grade stop talking to you in fifth grade. Closure doesn't come easy. Saying goodbye first makes it hurt a little less. 16. Enjoy people for their impermanence, the limited run series of their lives. 17. Not everything will return to you. Thank you. So the book is called Built by Storms, and this next one is where it gets that name. Upon learning Jupiter, along with its great red spot, is made of hurricanes. I think same. If I am built by anything, surely it's storms. Surely I am swirling clouds, rapid cycling destruction. I threaten thunderbolt from my fingertips, deal hail from my fists. I think of how many times I tore my parents to shreds, seeking my own devastation. My father's question mark voice gets lost in the wind as he repeats, "Possession of heroin?" when I call him for a ride home from the police station. My mother's weather-worn hands clench the courtroom bench as I stand before a judge, call myself an addict, watch her foundation crumble. Both of them carrying boarded up smiles, camel crush cigarettes, and bent postures to the psychiatric clinic for the 8th time. I never meant to be burdensome, leaden clouds and uncontrolled release. I never meant to be torrential. How often I wish I would wither away I rip the skin around my nails and pray, if I am a tornado, let me stop spinning. Let me stop spinning. Let me stop. Let me let. I hear the great red spot is dying, shivering off whirlwind limbs, growing smaller each day. A hurricane twice the size of Earth, as old as the gods, could slow to a stop in years. I picture Jupiter's storms going silent. I think of all my unanswered prayers for quiet. Even gods get tired. I've swallowed handfuls of stillness, choked them back up onto my pillow. I'm still here. I think about the great red spot project questions of why life and why death and why do I yearn for both. I hurl prayers to the sky. I picture the gods alone with no one to pray to, fighting to remain cyclones, fighting to remain colossal. We are made of the same violent weather. That I could get clean is miraculous, like a solar system exploding into existence. My fingernails slice valleys into my palms. My knuckles are storm white as I realize I too have fought to be here, fought to take up space. Thank you. So, this next one is called Disappearing from Family Photographs After the Car Crash. As I pass by the overturned car on the Garden State Parkway that could have been my overturned car, I take my right hand off the steering wheel and place it on my chest, like the photograph decades in the past, where my father has his right hand placed on his chest, seeing my demolished Nissan Maxima, and I am standing next to him, alive, taking the pictures. As I pass the overturned car that could have been my overturned car, it isn't my own racing heartbeat that lets my foot ease onto the brake pedal, but how the image of him shifts when I imagine I am not there. I am not standing next to him, alive, taking the pictures. Instead, his shoulders collapsed, his face excavated of joy. How it was once my windshield glass glittering on the pavement, the ease with which I would have died had the traffic or wind shifted millimeters in the moment. There would be so many photographs with me removed from their existence. I have fantasized myself out of them before. Each time I disappear from a photograph, my family's fading smiles place me carefully back. As I pass the overturned car that is not my overturned car, I put my right hand back on the steering wheel. I witness the wreck and feel the pull of envy. Thank you. Um, okay, so thank you, Melissa. So, this one is called the bargaining stage. Coal miners get it. It used to be called black lung. I pictured your lungs, 21 years in your body, no longer flushed cheeks pink, speckled with soot, carbon covering your breath. My lungs felt too full, my inhaled breath too much, because I couldn't share it with you. All I had to offer was a half smoked cigarette, and you'd quit months before the diagnosis. You and your dad went to see a billboard advertised lawyer who said litigation could go on long after your death. like you weren't in the room. I choked on vengeance as your parents offered up your existence, the way we treat our dying as already dead. But sometimes we do something remarkable instead. In 1896, coal miners invented a canary resuscitator, a cage with an oxygen tank to revive the birds after signs of distress from carbon monoxide exposure. Despite bartering their lives, miners bonded with the birds, echoed their songs with whistling, stroked their feathers with gloved fingers. You grew up gentle to everyone but yourself. The year you got sick was the year you had started loving your body, claiming it as yours after decades spent disowning it to purge induced thinness and grown men's hands. Birds have air sacs attached to the hollow areas of their bones. An extension of their lungs, they take in oxygen on the exhale along with the inhale. This is intended to provide energy for flight, but also allows them to get a double dose of toxic air. No doctors could explain why you developed cancer. Were your parents connected to your lungs? Was the lifeline empty? Did they knock the wind out of you? We spent your 22nd birthday swimming and drinking Guinness. I started to leave saying I'd see you tomorrow. You looked down at the water, told me I don't know what I'll be doing tomorrow. I stayed and would have stayed for 22 years and lifetimes longer. For more time, I would throw every blue egg from its nest, fill pools with plucked feathers, snuff out all the yellow in the universe. Thank you. So I have three more. Um, and this next one is one I wrote in Poems That Don't Suck. So it's a favorite of mine. It's called Self Portrait with Mealworm. Mrs. Ripa hands out mealworm larvae for us to parent into darkling beetles. Goldenrod inches, they squirm and climb in clear plastic cups, their inadequate forests. I decorate mine with the best needles of grass and evergreen blades in Bethesda. I name my mealworm Nelson, write our names on his habitat in permanent ink, chiseled capital letters. We learn what it means to molt, that to grow, our mealworms will shed their exoskeletons 10 times, or even more. I touch me nose to Nelson's as other kids squeal, gross. He is on my desk. I forget he exists. Set my box of crayons down with a faint crunch. I feel more than hear. His head wobbles like television static, a glitching animation. I shove the murder weapon in my backpack, throw away my self portrait in progress, sit hunched, monstrous, aware for the first time of the ways I am too large, the casualty of my hands. No one warned me that I am capable of killing, of the pieces I can kill within myself. Everyone else's mealworms hatch with sepia bodies, a sturdy ugliness. It's the year I learned to hate my own body, the flesh of my thighs and how they squish out more than Brittany's when we sit in the back seat of her mom's van. My buckled burden of soft torso and flawed limbs. I want to be measured in inches, small and segmented. I mouth metamorphosis in my mirror, promise her I will discard this self for someone who will be enough. I don't know it yet, but I will spend the next 2 decades dissecting myself to fit into standards, kill my appetite with Adderall, binge read gossip magazines, train my shoulders to shrink. I will shed over 423 skins of my own before I look at my reflection and do not feel contained. Thank you. All right, so this next one is called Worth Reconstruction. Senior year of college, I have nothing left to lose of myself. I live with 4 friends in a should be condemned house. The weather damaged doors don't whisper their wishes because restoration sounds a lot like renovation. And when all you want is to be demolished, you don't dare plead your prayers lest they be misheard. When the downstairs power goes pre industrial, which it does once a week, I go to my bathroom and tap the vacant outlet with my middle and ring fingers, bring light back to the living room, an automatic upgrade for the kitchen. I walk to the deck, the one that caught fire after Kelly and I left embers in the ashtray, tell friends and schoolmates I've never met, I'm young, I'm poor, I have no will. One of these days, I'm going to die tapping on that outlet. Just dole out my belongings. Sarah says, I don't want any of your things. Just a lock of your hair for when I take Molly. I stamp out my cigarette and feel an unfit dwelling for anyone's words of worth. I have little to offer of my crumbling body, plasterboard lungs patched with scraps of black tar smoked through a straw, limbs laced with burn holes and bruises from nights spent in narcotic numb nods, walls of my heart spattered with knuckle indents. We pretend to have Fight Club in the backyard as if that isn't totally toxic. The windows watch us with held breath, reluctant to render any signs of life left within. Ben is a homeless clown, has a stick and poke tattoo of the word eyebrow where his right eyebrow is shaved off. He finishes my drugs to protect me from myself and is the only one who will hit me with full force. When his fist connects to my chest, I choke on laughter, spit out self disgust thick as paint. There is no empty electrical socket or touch gentle enough to rewire me whole, just so much more to tear down. A decade and a half into a future I never foresaw, I will think of the house I expected to die in. If I could reach back in time, I would place my hand on its threshold and say, you don't have to be destroyed to be rebuilt. Thank you. And then I will finish with this one. It is the last poem in the book. Um, and it is called Reason 47 to Live Through the Apocalypse. To see what regrows from the rubble, because I have regrown from the rubble. I have been buried far beneath where I could fathom climbing, the stamped wax bags scattered across my bed, certain I'd never see the surface. I have been taken apart, each smoldering piece a separate pile, his hand on the back of my neck, left to reform. I have witnessed my own eradication, watched my body lifted back to being. Life can emerge from decay There's breath waiting beneath the debris. Rebirth happens after wreckage, and no, it shouldn't have to be that way. After the end, when the green starts its resurgence, I want to offer the sprouts and shoots tenderness after a feat of resilience. Whisper to them as they grow, thank you. You are here. Thank you. You made it. You didn't have to make it. Thank you.
Oh, let's clap, everybody. It was so beautiful and so powerful always. Every poem just hits you. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad you read the mealworm poem. That's one of my favorite. Um, yeah, that the way that poem evolves is just incredible. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Miriam? I think I'll start while the others are thinking. I'm curious how it feels. Your poems are so vulnerable, and I think experiencing that from you has always inspired me, the way you're able to connect with people through that vulnerability. And I'm wondering how it feels having a book out in the world, if it feels any different, having this maybe a little bit more public version of yourself as a poet, or maybe you felt you were already, I know you've had chapbooks and stuff before as well. So does this feel bigger or more scary in some way, or does it continue to inspire you to be vulnerable? Is it anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. I mean it's terrifying. It is terrifying. I my first chapbook was published I think in 2017, so for the most part they're like, poems that not that they no longer represent me, but that they're, you know, any that made it into the book evolved pretty, heavily. And um, my second and third chapbook were very limited run. So um, there were some in the book certainly that my family in particular, I was very nervous about, and feel very grateful that they love me regardless of my past. But still, there were pieces that were, you know, scary to show them. And it has been also a new level of like, well, if a stranger buys the book, what does that look like? What are they going to judge me? Are they going to be wary of, aspects of my past and my history? And at the same time, I've heard some people talk about like who do you want your front row to be? And so certainly if there's anybody who's gonna judge me or love me less or not accept what what's in there, then they weren't meant to be part of my front row anyway. So it is scary, but it's also liberating to remember that like if I don't need them, I don't need anybody who doesn't you know approach what I've been through with with a degree at least of love. So, and not everybody has to. They don't have to. They don't have to love me or what I've been through. Nobody owes me that. So I have to take both sides.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you. Jacques has a hand up next.
Wow, Miriam, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just incredibly moved by your poems. Um, yeah, when people often when one has lived through difficult things, people often say you're so lucky. You could turn that into a book, but it's not like that. It's hard. Um, I guess my question is there's a there's a paradox for me. There's a beautiful paradox in many of your poems for me because they they speak of this intoxication. You could almost throw your life away, and yet they're poems that really make you want to live, or they make me want to live. It's a it's a and it's somehow it's in the poems as well. It's that they feel easy. They easy to read, but they speak of things that are difficult. There's a, and I love that tension. I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if you want to say something about that tension. Is it something, are these things that you think about while you're writing, or does the work happen in between? And then when you come to write a poem, does it come easily? I'm not even quite sure what I've asked you now, but can you?
I'm happy to try and answer, the incredibly kind and complex you know, questions. I think for one, um, it depends. Some poems come kind of easily to an extent. Like I have kind of an idea of at least where I'm starting, and where I end up is uh sometimes a mystery. And sometimes when I have that idea of where I'm starting, at least I know where I want that tension to be.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes I don't. Like the first poem I read, I started it with the idea of being, like a student driver, in the car with my mom. And I assumed it was going to be a poem about my mom and myself. And it ended up, obviously, turning into more of a poem about my daughter and myself. And so sometimes that tension is surprising and it's not planned. And I think some of it comes from kind of what Melissa was speaking to about having vulnerability woven throughout the poems, that like I'm willing to give a lot of myself in my writing, and I think that allows for that to show up, um uh maybe to an extent that it wouldn't if there wasn't that vulnerability. um
Yes.
I wish all the poems were easy to write and came out easily. That would have made my life a lot simpler. But
Yeah.
sometimes you fight for them too, right? Did
Yeah. But I
that
love that.
answer at all?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that element. I've felt that you allow yourself to be surprised in the writing. I actually got goosebumps when you described yourself driving with your eyes closed, and I thought there's just something of that in the way that you write, that you trust. I think writing in a vulnerable way is like that sometimes. You don't know in advance where you where you're going to end up exactly. Um, yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful question, Jacques. Thank you. Ed, over to you.
Hey, Miriam, I am still completely floored by what you just read. Yeah, like a wave that just, and that's part of the quality that I loved about the poems is they're so sustained. You have this thing going through you and through the reader and through the listener. Um, yeah, it's just remarkably brave. Um, and Yeah, so I don't really have a question, but I am fascinated by your titles. I think they are brilliant. The sort of expansive, they just encapsulate so much. They're just very rich. And do they come afterwards, or I mean, it's not even. Yeah, it just they're great titles. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, so I mean, some of them some of them come before. I'll just get like this like idea of a title and like that'll be kind of like the jumping off for the beginning point. Um Certainly some of them come afterwards. And then there are some that sit untitled for a good long while because I just can't think of anything good. There are some in the book that don't have the most, exciting or kind of evocative titles per se, which is also okay, of course, right? Um but yeah, finding a good title is fun. So thank you. And I, it is, but it's not always the easiest part. So thank you for saying that.
Hey, thank you.
Anyone else with a question or comment? No. Okay, so Miriam, anything you want to say? Anything about, I don't know, where people can find you, buy your book, all of those good things, maybe?
Sure, sure. I mean, I can put my social media handle in the chat because it's the same on all platforms. So I'm not often on X these days or Twitter. I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm happy to connect however anybody wants to. And then the book is available either through the Right Bloody website, my website, bookshop. I think pretty much anywhere books are sold should be able to get it for you. So um, but let me know if you run into any issue. And I've been to this series a few times when I'm able to if I don't have anything work related to be at, and it's just such a beautiful, really lovely series, and I'm really grateful to have been able to spend some time here today reading poems, and I am looking forward to hearing poems from the open mic. So that's all I have.
Perfect.